Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Hajj Day Today. This is another live edition. We're continuing to cover the Hajj pilgrimage in Saudi Arabia. We're also providing you from here relevant and updated news and information from around the Muslim world about Hajj. We also have in the studios with us in-depth discussions related to various Hajj topics. Tonight we will continue providing news and information about the movement of Muslims. They're still, in some places, still making their way to Saudi Arabia. In particular tonight, we're going to focus on a special group of Muslims from Iraq. They have been smuggled out through a very arduous path under the cover of dark and other hardships they had to face. They're coming from areas in Iraq that are under the control of the Islamic State. We're very happy to have these Iraqi pilgrims join us. We're going to take a closer look at their story later in the program. Also, we have some statements here. There's a speech that's been made by Iran's Ayatollah. He has some very strong words against colonialists and Western powers, but he's saying that Hajj is particularly important for promoting Muslim solidarity. A very important message from the Ayatollah in Iran. Then also we have a very interesting story from North America. In the United States, a Muslim footballer who plays in the NFL, there was an announcement related to him. He scored a touchdown, a goal for his team, and in the end zone, he assumed the sujood position, which is the position of worshiping Allah. He was penalized, but we'll see a recent ruling by the authority for the governing body of this organization, what they have to say about this Muslim player in the United States. We have a few other items for you as well for our news. Following news tonight for our social segment. As always, we're going to touch on some health topics, and of course we're going to talk tonight about how some of the health aspects related to Hajj. All of us are not always coming to Hajj in the same states of health. Also, in addition to this, we are still experiencing warm weather. We're starting to see the beginning of autumn, but it's still warm. This makes the Hajj something important to talk about. We're going to be looking for our social segment tonight, some of the health aspects of the Hajj. And then also we're going to be talking about Hajj as a way of answering the call of Allah. We will take a short break right now and come back with the news. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to Hajj Day Today. For our first item this evening, we will go to Saudi Arabia and look at the latest in the tent city of Mina. The Saudi agencies have said that they've completed all of their preparations at the tent city and they're ready to receive this year's more than 2 million Hajj pilgrims. Also the missions from the various countries that are serving their fellow countrymen for the Hajj, they have finalized all of the training in preparation for serving the Hajjs, and there are, again, just as much as the Saudi agencies are ready, these Hajj agencies are also mission agencies are also ready. On Wednesday, after the nighttime Aisha prayer, pilgrims who are staying in and around Mecca, they started migrating into the Mina Valley. Some were coming on foot, others by bus. They will continue making their way into Mina through Thursday. Then, of course, on Friday, the big day, when all of the more than 2 million Muslims will be on the plains of Arafat. The Hajj missions have also very carefully prepared and designed these Hajj operation plans. They're designed to make the movement of their pilgrims very smoothly without any hiccups or disturbances. Inshallah, they can complete their Hajj with the support that they're getting. There's lots of support by the government and by the country's Hajj missions. We will take a closer look at one particular mission. This is the Pakistani mission. The consulate in Jeddah they announced that they have completed the training course that it had conducted for its members of the Pakistani Hajj Volunteers Group. This, again, is one of the particular Hajj missions by, again, Pakistan. They did this in partnership with the World Assembly of Muslim Youth. The main coordinator for the Pakistani group, Professor Wissam Bukhari, he described the group saying that it is comprised entirely of volunteers who have come from a variety of professions and backgrounds. He said that the 3,000 volunteers, they came together for the sole purpose of helping Hajjis during the pilgrimage. Mohammed Nawaz, the group's senior founding member, he said that the group volunteers will also help, of course, other Hajjis from other nationalities. One of the reasons that there, if you could, I'm sure we can imagine, there are certain language barriers, and so this is why it's important, why many countries send their own Hajj missions to help support the country, the people coming from their countries, as well as some cultural barriers that may be in place. And again, all of this is to help make the Hajj more easy and comfortable for the pilgrims. For our next story, we will go to Iraq. This is a very special story. The head of Iraq's Hajj delegation, as well as the Iraqi Undersecretary for Hajj, they have confirmed that they've successfully smuggled out 8,000 Iraqis that were living under the control, in areas that are under the control of the Islamic State, so that they can come to Saudi Arabia to perform the Hajj. Iraqi Hajj officials, they said that the pilgrims were actually putting their lives on the line by escaping to perform the Hajj. Officials, they also said that the pilgrims had to move under the cover of darkness, through the Euphrates River, through remote areas, to secret rendezvous locations to meet military planes that airlifted them safely out of the country. An important part of their success in this operation was the support of the Kurdish authorities. While the former Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki was in power, the Sunni population in Iraq, in Mosul, they were banned from performing Hajj for a period of time. This year, there are nearly 27,000 Iraqi pilgrims performing Hajj this year. So again, this is a very, very special story. We're glad to see these brothers and sisters making it. Again, the number 27,000 Iraqis from performing Hajj this year. There's another group of, a very small group of students from the island nation of Maldives. This is about 600 kilometers off the coast of India. They were detained by the Saudi police. Eventually, they were rejected from entering Mecca. This is a small group of students. They were traveling to Mecca, they said, to assist their fellow countrymen who were there to perform the Hajj. This year we saw about 1,000 Maldivians going to Saudi Arabia for Hajj. This group of 10 students, they arrived in Mecca on Tuesday, and they were detained again by the Saudi police at a checkpoint and sent back to Medina. The head of the Maldivian Hajj mission in Mecca said that the students, quote, had the documents to enter Mecca, but the police at the checkpoint said that the documents were counterfeit. The student told the Saudi authorities that they paid $400 to receive the permits for Hajj to an agent in Medina. The students had also taken the capital to Riyadh and released. They were released at about just before 5 a.m. on Wednesday. Now, this is not especially unique because they were turned away. We've seen the Saudi authorities turn away many thousands. In fact, last week we saw the number was nearly 100,000 people had been turned back and not permitted to enter for Hajj. There's nothing special in that regard, but what this shows is that even in Saudi Arabia, in Medina, there's an effort to swindle people out of their money for this very sacred right that we have. And also it shows the vigilance of the Saudi authorities to stop the illegal actions of those who are seeking to exploit very honest God-fearing Muslims who want to participate or, in their case, support those who are performing Hajj. We'll go to this statement or this speech that was made by the Ayatollah in Iran for our next story. He was at a meeting with some of Iran's Hajj officials. They were discussing Muslim unity. The Ayatollah, he said today, quote, "One of the most important methods that the enemies of the Islamic Ummah, the Muslim world, use is creating discord." He said that the enemies of Islam, they create discord. If someone accepts, he said, that the Islamic movement and the Islamic awakening threatens the interests of the great powers, they can naturally understand that these great powers focus on all of their efforts to create discord among Muslims, keeping them busy with trivial things, pitting them against one another, he said, and preventing them from thinking. He continued talking about these great powers, a very vague term. He said that they provoke the elements of discord between Islamic denominations. He's referring to Shia and Sunni, and that this is what the hands of the colonialists are doing at the present time. Unfortunately, he said some of the people that are being used by them are Muslims on both sides, Sunni and Shiites. During the Hajj pilgrimage, he said, you should do your best to decrease the lack of understanding among one another and see through all these fake grudges, quote unquote. Again, this is the Ayatollah continuing to speak, saying that Muslim solidarity, we should not fall prey to what he says is the taqims of the enemies of Islam. For our next story, we go to Dubai. Prison authorities there are helping poor families by giving them money to purchase meat for the sacrifice. Poor families of inmates who are still in detention, they are receiving financial support to buy the sacrificial meat, again, for the Eid al-Adha holiday. The initiative was a part of a police effort to support poor families of inmates in cooperation with charity associations and philanthropists. The inmates' families were welcomed by the acting director of the corrections facility and gave them Eid greetings and as well as the assistance to buy the sacrificial animals to participate in this very important festival. So we're glad to see this act of charity, and this is not the only one. We've been seeing many types of forms of charity. The next story is yet another form of charity in the Emirates. We'll stay in the Emirates for our next story. Some of the rulers in the Emirates have released groups of prisoners so that they can go home and join their families for the Eid holiday. Ajman, he's one of the rulers. He released nearly 70 prisoners, that's 68 prisoners from the punitive centers that they were being held at. Also, Sheikh Hamid bin Rashid Al Nuami, he's a Supreme Council member. He ordered these 68 prisoners to be released for what he said was their good behavior, again, so that they can be home with their families for the Eid holiday. They were pardoned, and he said that this demonstrates the kindness of the rulers in the Emirates. This is a very similar thing that we saw during the other Eid, the second official Islamic holiday, Eid al-Fitr, where a very similar thing. There were lots of prisoners being released so that they can celebrate with their families. For our next story, we go to the United States. There's a group of Muslims at one of the universities there. They have an Eid al-Adha event that they have launched on their campus. This is in the U.S. state of Pennsylvania. This is the Penn Muslim Student Association. They want to celebrate the Eid by inviting members from not only the Muslim community, but the wider non-Muslim part of the society. In the United States, there are between 3 to 6 million Muslims who celebrate the Eid holiday every year. So we're very glad to see this young group of Muslims in Pennsylvania This is the University of Pennsylvania, one of the more prestigious universities in the United States, celebrating Eid in a public forum so that they can help, is a form of dawah actually, help other non-Muslims learn about Islam and give a venue for Muslims to celebrate in solidarity. For our last story this evening, for our news, we stay in the United States and look at a recent announcement made by the league that governs the American football. It's the NFL. They said on Tuesday that this footballer, Hussein Abdullah, he should not have been penalized in the game for what he was called unsportsmanlike conduct when he formed the sujood position on his knees after scoring a goal for his team. The rule books for the league say that it prohibits players from celebrating while on the ground. The officiating mechanic or the referee at the game in this situation should not have flagged the player because he went to the ground. The rules allow the religious expression in these situations. The official there, in other words, gave him a ruling that was not valid according to the officials at the NFL. The flag was thrown in the fourth quarter. At this particular game, they won by a score of 41-14, a very significant victory for the Kansas City Chiefs. This is the name of the team that Hussein Abdullah played for in the United States. And we see many Christian players, this is a very common thing, when they score these goals, they will go down on one knee and cross themselves, and there's no problem with that. And so perhaps because this will be an awakening for the officials and for the league itself to recognize that when Muslims do this, it's no different than when Christians do it, and they should not be penalized for it. And alhamdulillah, they did win the game, and in the future, also this brother, he took off a year prior to this, just for the purpose of performing the Hajj. Obviously, it wasn't this year. The report doesn't say if it was last year, but recently, in recent years, he took an entire year off. This is no small thing. It's big to take a year off of your professional career, and he did this solely for the purpose of performing Hajj. Alhamdulillah, we appreciate his leadership and hope that the league can change in the direction that favors the Muslim players. Thank you so much for tuning in to the news segment of the program. We will continue Hajj Day today. Brother Osama El-Shami, he is here to host the social segment tonight. The focus is answering the call of Allah. Hajj is one of the basic pillars of Islam. We're going to be talking about that, as well as the health or the medical aspect of performing the Hajj. We hope you enjoy a very informative program. Inshallah, we'll be back with you tomorrow with more. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back, my dear brothers and sisters, to this very, very special episode of Hajj Day today. And it's very special because, technically speaking, alhamdulillah rabbil alameen, Hajj has begun, and our brothers and sisters have made their way to Mina. Tomorrow, of course, is the very big day, because everyone will be going to Arafah, inshallah, and inshallah we will be bringing you that live right here on Huda TV throughout the entire day. We'll be with you live for more than 12, maybe 15 hours tomorrow, inshallah, as we bring you live coverage from Arafat, inshallah, on this beautiful day of Arafah tomorrow. Now, as we think of Hajj, my dear brothers and sisters, something has to come to our mind. Something so special about why we're doing what we're doing. Why are all of these people, mashallah, walking these long distances and, getting in crowded situations and spending all this money and making all this effort and leaving their businesses behind and every other thing that you can imagine? Why are they doing all of this if it is not for a special cause? For the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Really, in order for them to follow the orders of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We perform Hajj, my dear brothers and sisters, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded us to do so. He ordered us to perform Hajj. So tonight, inshallah, my dear brothers and sisters, we're going to be talking about this very, very special subject of how we can answer the call of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not only in Hajj, but in life in general. And I'm really honored to be joined here in the studio by Brother Yusuf Salhin. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you so much for being with us here this evening. And it's always a pleasure to have you with us, inshallah.
It's always mine.
Jazakallah khairan. When we think about answering a call, right? We all get calls on our phones on a daily basis, and we either want to answer these calls or we don't. Sometimes we act like we're not hearing the phone. Are we doing that similarly when it comes, of course, وَلِلَّهِ الْمَثُلُ الْأَعْلَى, to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala belongs the highest of examples. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls us to do something, are we sometimes following that command and other times we're not?
Yes, unfortunately, sometimes we don't follow, we don't answer the commands. But let me start with the ayah when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Holy Quran, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا اسْتَجِيبُوا لِلَّهِ وَلِلرَّسُولِ إِذَا دَعَاكُمْ لِمَا يُحْيِيكُمْ. O you who believe, answer the call of Allah and His Prophet when they ask you or they call you for what makes you alive. So there's always a call. There's always a call from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all Muslims and believers at all times. It's not even in Hajj only. We have it. This call is in Quran for 90 times. Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu, O you who believe. It's 90 times in Quran. It's 5 times a day of adhan every day. This is the call of Allah, and it's in dozens of examples within the prophetic sunnah. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I descend on the last third of every night, saying, O you who pray, there's anyone who prays and want me to answer their prayer? Is there anyone who's asking or seeking forgiveness so I forgive them? It's always in every walk of life we find the call of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to live our life and submit ourselves to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fully.
Jazakallah khair, barakallah feek. Now, of course, the next question that comes to someone's mind is, how do I do that? How do I know that I'm a person who answers the call of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala?
That's a good question. It's not only about answering or submitting our will to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We can measure our iman, whether it's weak or strong, through the quick of the response. So I can see if I really have a quick response to calls of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to the prayers, to Hajj. Because for many, if we're speaking now about Hajj, and I'm very touched, my heart is beating for the Arafah and even for the background. It is not only Muslims who sometimes not very interested in Hajj. They might be interested about traveling abroad, studying abroad, going for tourism and sightseeing and stuff. But when it comes to Hajj, sometimes we're a little bit lazy. But alhamdulillah, when we see those millions of Muslims answering the call of Allah, we know that there is a hope that this quick answer, this quick response would reflect on their actual life when they get back from Hajj, to have quick responses also into the rest of their lives.
I really like the point that you said about subhanAllah, being quick to respond to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to His call. Because it's kind of like going back to the phone situation. If you're waiting for someone to call you, you'll answer it right away. You might even find yourself automatically answering it.
Yeah, sure.
But if you just keep waiting and waiting, maybe you're procrastinating and delaying, and then who knows, maybe eventually you'll miss out on the call.
Yes, it happens many times when somebody's waiting for a close friend or a lover. There's in our language, is very youth language, and I answer all of a sudden just before the phone rings, and they tell me, are you sitting on the button of the cell phone or what?
Yeah.
So that's what happened. It's even calling Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not only a call from Allah to us. We have to call Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have the ayah and the verse from the Quran, وَإِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِي عَنِّي فَإِنِّي قَرِيبٌ. It's it's always well known that this special ayah is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala removing all medities between Allah and His slaves and His servants. So it's to and fro, up and down, going from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, descending to us, calls. And then we have to call and pray for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at response.
Jazakallah khair. Now, let's relate to what we're talking about specifically to Hajj. What is the wisdom behind Hajj, and how is it a form of answering the call of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala?
Of course, the wisdom behind Hajj would take like hours, and it's not, I don't think I'm someone who authentic to speak about it. But in my point of view, that's very modest. I think it is living the experience, the living experience of the journey of faith of the first few believers. We have Ibrahim alayhi salam involved, his story involved in Hajj, Hajar alayhi salam, Ismail alayhi salam, and then it comes Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam performing and acting for us these very steps of the believers who started believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like Ibrahim, the father of prophets. So it's always, when we say living the experience is different from speaking about it. So living the experience of faith and the very beginning of faith is different from speaking about faith. So when a Muslim goes to Hajj, performs what Hajar alayhi salam has been doing, performs what Ibrahim alayhi salam has been doing, had done during his journey of faith and the struggle with shaitan. So it exemplifies like our lives as Muslims. We're struggling with shaitan, we seek faith, and we seek to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala better, and to be closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and keep worships and rites perfectly. So if we can apply the example of Hajj in our lives, it would be a perfect example of living our lives as this experience of Hajj.
How does the call of Hajj shape the world in terms of equality and justice?
In Hajj, we find, we watch I watch the TV and I don't see anything other than we can see hairs for like black and then white. These I can differentiate between a man and a woman, and a black and a white, a tall and short, like someone who has like a bodybuilding or muscles, or slim people like me. We're all same, and I can see a scenery even in movies and the very highest technology and tools portraying equality and that we are all one humankind other than Hajj. And the miracle that this is real. Even in movies, which is fake, it's like it's done, it's made up. They can do something like this, but this is in Islam and this is in Hajj. It's so real. You watch it and you can't even differentiate. Who are those? Are those Africans, Asians, or Europeans? Are those rich people? Are those poor people? You never know. You can know one thing: they're all people, they're all humankind, and they're all Muslims. And this is the greatness of Islam. This scene is never found in any other place, in any other faith, with all respect. But this is only found in Islam, and this is remind us of the Day of Judgment. We will all be like this, all humankind, either Muslims or non-Muslims.
Now, I want to take you to kind of a question about why. Why do we answer the call of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, other than that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded us to do so?
I think if I would say from my perspective, if I want to live my life ideally, from other than being a good Muslim, I think it's even maybe from a logical point of view for a believer, since I believe there is a God, there is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and there is consequently a sharia and a faith and a guide that He has given us to follow. So if I want my life perfect, live my life perfectly, and I have an ideal life, and this consequently would give me a hint for the afterlife, this is the way. The way is to answer this guide, is to follow the guide and the call of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I think this is the easiest way to live a happy life in the worldly life and in the afterlife.
Jazakallah khair. Obviously, on this way to answering the call of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Muslims may face some obstacles. It's not always an easy path. So, what are some obstacles that we might pass through, and how can we overcome them?
I think mainly there are two obstacles and barriers. There is ourselves, and whether you can call it an-nafs, and the shaitan or Satan. They're the two main obstacles. And I think if we watch Ramadan, for instance, we know that the marad al-shayateen are like tied, they're not allowed, but we still can find Muslims sin. I myself may be doing this. So why? Because this is the other obstacle, which is an-nafs. We have three types of an-nafs. The nafs that's calling the Muslim to do good because he has been raising his nafs to be obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there is a nafs al-ammara bis-su', which is like always calls you for evil, which is the opposite of the call of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, always for goodness, whether for yourself, for others, for the humanity, for worship. It's always call of goodness. So I think there's the two main obstacles, this shaitan and ourselves. So we can handle both of them by trying our best to answer the call of Allah, being away of all kinds of evil, all things that drags us down from answering the call of Allah.
How can we apply in our daily lives, lessons that are step by step that we can learn from Hajj?
Yeah, there are uncountable lessons from Hajj, and I can't even spot all of them, but I think I can spot from my point of view as a young man maybe, that there is always, we have to link, like a full link between our lives and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is what I've been saying about the ideal way of life, is just to have this link whatever you do, even playing. The Prophet, peace be upon him, used to say, even when you rest, even when you play, when you have this intention, and this intention is a heart link between what you're doing and between Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His commandments, and you're saying to yourself, I'm gonna rest because I wanna have more time to work and worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And always also at Hajj is to remember that you have to take a whole part of your life only for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It happens sometimes, and it's not only for those who go to Hajj. It's also for us, those who didn't have the chance to go to Hajj. Maybe I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us all to go to His house.
Ameen.
But also the first 10 days of the Hijjah is an offer for all Muslims, and I would love to spot this. We also in a time that always were people crazy about offers, about sale, about purchasing whatever, and wherever there is an offer, there is a sale, we all run and is like, yes, I want to get from this. And if we think of this in terms of Islam and in terms of cause of Allah, we have dozens and hundreds of offers throughout the Islamic calendar. Those 10 days are meant to be the best 10 days in the Islamic calendar. Inshallah, tomorrow is meant to be the best day that the sun rises on the Islamic calendar. We have Ramadan. We have Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying that I descend every night for those who ask for forgiveness. We have the call of repentance that is continuous throughout the Muslim life, from the time he's born to the time of death. it's always open. Whenever you want to repent, there's no specific time for repentance. Whenever you want to repent and you're alive, it's open. So these offers are always open for Muslims. The offers of fasting, the offers of praying, the offers, all kinds and acts of worship. There are dozens of offers, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us a beauty and more merits and hasanat of doing such things. And there's always, we can find the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam saying that, and in Quran, that one hasanah is counted as 10, and it's sometimes multiple to 700. And a hadith saying that if you pray Isha on time and Fajr on time, you are considered praying the whole night. And we find praying Duha prayers as the, like, giving out lots of charity, and it is the charity for Muslims' life. And we find praying 12 rak'ah a day is building a palace on Jannah. There are hundreds of offers. There are hundreds of calls. These offers are actually calls, and it is multiple. It has lots of advantages, and it's not only just pray. No, it's always pray, and you have multiple merits and multiple hasanat.
Yes.
Like, I can't imagine how much we have those beautiful offers and calls from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then we are sometimes lazy to answer. We might answer shops and malls better.
Now, when we think about tomorrow, inshallah, we want to remind our brothers and sisters of the importance of fasting tomorrow and answering the call of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tomorrow. What would you say to our brothers and sisters?
I would say I am very excited. That's what I want to say, because personally, I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for forgiveness. As anybody, I sin. I see myself as not the perfect worshipper and servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I'm excited because the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that fasting on this day would remove and delete sins for 2 years, a year after and a year before. I can't imagine how much I would appreciate this day. I am trying to prepare myself, whether physically, if I want to fast, and we might eat suhoor inshallah, and intentionally and preparing my schedule for the day. It is in Islam, and I think this is so great and so important, that one day in the Islamic calendar in the whole year is the best day. How should we act on this day? How should we take care of every single moment and second that passes? We don't want to pass without worship, without dhikr, without ibadah, without reciting Quran, without prayers. And it's also perfect because it's coming on Friday, and this is like all the best things all together on one day. It's Friday, it's the best day on the Islamic calendar, and it forgives Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on this day. If it's accepted, I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept from all of us. If it's accepted, it wipes the sins of whole 2 years, and I'm very excited for my last year and my next year to be like pure years of my life. And I think I'm excited for not only for myself, for also for my brothers and sisters and all Muslims.
Now, tell me about how different is Hajj in terms of being a call than other calls that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded us with. What makes Hajj such a special call in itself?
Of course, in the very beginning, it's one of the Islamic, like the most important actions in the Islamic faith. It's one pillar of Islam, one duty, if people are able to do it. And also we can find the beauty of Islam asking people who can do it and who are capable, whether physically, in terms of health, and financially, to go to Hajj and perform it. And then it comes in the ayah, وَأَذِّن فِي النَّاسِ بِالْحَجِّ يَأْتُوكَ رِجَالًا. It is as some people and some Muslim sheikhs describe it, it is the biggest conference of humanity in the whole world, where all people are saying one call, are answering one call of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, saying labbaik Allahumma labbaik. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we totally submit ourselves to you. We here on Mecca and on places of Hajj, we're doing nothing other than answering your call. There are people traveling from the whole countries of the whole world, nationwide. All nations, all tribes, all people, all types of people are there to do one thing, to answer the call of Allah. For us, or for other calls, it might be kind of short calls. So you do it and maybe you're sometimes busy after, or just you're not aware of what you're doing. So maybe you pray and you're not really aware of praying. Of course, this is against khushu', but sometimes it happens. But when you go to Hajj, you have nothing in mind. You're not caring about your career, your job. You're off everything in life.
You kind of leave everything behind for a little while.
Yes. So this is the difference of the call of Hajj and everything else. And this is why I think Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have promised all those who have performed Hajj and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepted it, so they go back home pure as the day they were born in, without pure from sins, but not pure from hasanat. So they have all the hasanat as they live the whole life worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they pure as the day they were born in.
MashaAllah. Inshallah. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us that opportunity soon, inshallah.
I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to go to Hajj with you.
I mean, that would be amazing. Wallahi, I was just about to tell you that. Jazakallah khairan. SubhanAllah, when people are at Hajj, every single act that they're doing reflects this idea that they are trying their best to answer the call of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Truly.
Tell me about the importance of time when it comes to answering the call of Allah when it comes to Hajj. For example, if you go to Arafah, on another day, just because it's going to be empty.
Sorry, that's.
Why don't you just go on the first day of Eid, for example, right? It'll be a whole lot more empty, and there won't be that many people. So, your thoughts about the importance of answering the call of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at Hajj, on specific times, like for example tomorrow, of course,
Sure.
at Arafah, and you have to be within, Arafah.
A few hours.
And at the
24.
same time, not answering the call of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in other things in our life.
True. I want to render and reflect this even before going to Hajj on our daily and our normal lives. Islam teaches us to be people who are on time, people are conscientious, on their punctual on their timing. It's not only we can find those teachings in prayers of 5 times, and the best Muslims who are following prayers or following on time. On Hajj, it's always within a specific time. Whether even Sunnah prayers, it's always within a specific time. So when it comes to Hajj, and why this specific timing, and why it is so specified, this is to tell Muslims that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls you, you have, as we mentioned in the very beginning, to have this quick response. And when it is very obliged and obligatory in one specific time, we find all Muslims answering the call all together. So it's not haphazardly. The process is not whenever you want to do it. No, it teaches you and it trains you as a human being. When there is a call of Allah, you have to respond in time, if not on time. So when you miss the day of Arafah, we're sorry, you missed Hajj. And also you can find this throughout the rites of Hajj. Rights. When a Muslim misses something from rites of Hajj, they have to make up, or they have to fast. Even sometimes they have to slaughter sheep. There's some specific response. If you don't do it on time and you missed something, you have to make up. And these things sometimes are financially, because as human beings, money is maybe the best way to train us. And sometimes for major components of Hajj and major components of any worship, you missed it. It can be like made up. If you missed Arafah day, for instance, and you've missed standing on Arafah, it is not.
So it's not only required to answer the call of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but you must answer the call of Allah at the appropriate time, at the time that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded.
Because this means you answer it as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you to answer. You're not answering it as you want to answer it. It's like, all right, I'm going to finish this job and then I'm going to go whenever I'm done. When I have free time, I'll go and do it. This is not how it works. If you want to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you should first of all humiliate yourself to your Creator, and then you should obey the commandments and answer the calls as your Creator has given it to you.
So exactly, you just said it's so important to be humble and to have this humility when we're dealing with the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Of course.
But sometimes we fall into the trap of the shaitan, and we actually challenge the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's one thing to say, okay, I'm doing something bad and I'm not following the commands of Allah, but at least, you're just leaving it at that. Other people, they actually challenge the commands of Allah. I'll give you an example. There's some anti-Muslim woman. She came out, I believe yesterday or the day before, and she said that slaughtering animals during the time of Hajj,
heard of it.
is the biggest massacre that happens every single year.
Well,
isn't that a form of not following the commandments of Allah?
Of course it is, and I'm sorry to say, some people are just they're too attractive and they're too offending. They're offensive to others and offensive to Islam to the extent that they forgive other massacres. There are lots of other massacres against humanity, not any other thing that happens, and they're not actually spoiling it. So they come to Islam like, oh, this is the biggest massacre that happens every year. And then we as Muslims, we answer the call of Allah, and we find and see the purpose of every living being as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have given it the purpose. So if we're guided that sheep, camels, water buffaloes and cows are to be slaughtered and eaten, and this is an Islamic right, I believe those creatures are created for this purpose. And also we would say that Islam has been teaching, the Islamic teachings is always about mercy, even in slaughtering animals. So this is like Muslims, when they slaughter, this is a right that they doing for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And animals from Islamic view and from also all Abrahamic faith and even normal faith, they're created to benefit humankind. Everything on the world and on earth are being created to serve humankind.
Jazakallah khair. We have just one final minute here in this segment, so if you can please share your final thoughts with our brothers and sisters and your final advice of how to answer the call of Allah.
I would say answering the call of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and how to do it. I would keep myself with a righteous company. That's
very important.
This is, I think, one of the best ways to do it. When I'm kind of lazy and I have my friends and company with me, it's like, Yusuf, come on, let's worship, let's do like perform our praise. And it's like, Alhamdulillah, this is a blessing. And also, I want to share the last thought about tomorrow and confirm tomorrow as I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept it from all of us. And I ask all brothers and sisters to have this fasting, and not only the fasting from food and drink, but also the spiritual fasting from all sins. And let's have it as a fresh start for our Muslim spiritual lives. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to have this karma that is happening throughout the Islamic uh, part of the world. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on Eid days to have this mercy upon our brothers and sisters throughout all part of the world, within Gaza, Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, all Islamic and Muslim countries. And let's not forget those people and those Muslims who are not really gonna enjoy Eid as we do. Let's just at least pray for them and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant the Islamic nation and the Ummah the greatness of Islam and the applying of Islam in our lives, which have the Islamic civilization revived.
Barakallah feek, Brother Yusuf. So it was a pleasure talking with you. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you. Jazakallah khair. My dear brothers and sisters, we are not done here yet tonight. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, inshallah, we'll give you some health tips, as many people, inshallah, will be fasting tomorrow. Hopefully, as many of us as possible, inshallah. We'll be back in just a moment. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, my dear brothers and sisters in Islam. Welcome back to the final segment here tonight of our program, Hajj Day Today, a very special episode on the eve of Arafah Day. MashaAllah. Alhamdulillah, tomorrow is the big day for the Hujjaj and also a very big day for us as we're going to be fasting here, inshallah. So we have some great medical advice for you. For both our brothers and sisters who are at Hajj, if they are watching us right now from Mina, or for those of us also who are going to be fasting from their homes, inshallah. So I'm really, really honored to be joined here in the studio by Dr. Ahmed Asharqawi, who is a neurosurgeon. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you so much, Doctor, for taking the time to be with us and enlighten us.
And thank you for your invitation to be with you today.
Appreciate it. Now, if we can first address our brothers and sisters at Hajj, and let me begin by asking you, what are some of the most common problems that otherwise healthy people could face during Hajj?
Yes. First, I'd like to congratulate all Muslim people all over the world for the Adha feast. My deep wishes for all pilgrims today standing on Arafah, and my deep wishes for them. I wish for them best health and safety tomorrow on standing on Arafah. The common medical health problems which occur during Hajj are categorized into more than one group. First, age-related factors like exhaustion, fractures during crowding, also during stampede. There is another group which is heat-related, like heat
strokes.
Yes, heat exhaustion, heat strokes, sunburns from prolonged exposure for sun during the day. Also, there is another group which we can classify it as infectious diseases, like respiratory tract infections, meningitis, which occurs in more than one outbreak the previous years. Also, the pilgrims may suffer from cardiovascular problems like angina, chest pain, difficult breathing from under or inadequate ventilation. And many people which have brain insults or brain problems may have flaring up of their conditions during crowding times. But the most common problem which occur for pilgrims during Hajj is due to sun exposure.
Great. Inshallah, we're going to actually take all of these things that you just mentioned and go into them a little bit specifically. But I want to begin with the infectious diseases because really that's a very hot topic this year, last year, and almost every year.
Yes.
Because as you said, there are so many people and they're coming from all different parts of the world and you know, some people may be carrying some sort of a bacteria or a virus or things like that. You mentioned meningitis,
Yes.
and that is a common word or a common disease that we often hear of, but we may not know too much about it. So if we can begin by definition of what meningitis is, would be appreciated.
Yes. Meningitis means inflammation of the meninges. What are the meninges? The meninges are the membranes which cover the brain and protects it against infection, trauma, shocks. Under these meninges, there is watery fluid, which is CSF. This fluid also protects the brain and provide nutrients for the brain. So meningitis means inflammation at this site in the meninges. How can meningitis occur? Meningitis, it is infection caused by microbe. This microbe most often transferred from one person to another through the air, droplet infection, especially during these times. There is a lot of people each year, more than 4 million people in narrow place. So droplet infection or airborne infection is easy to occur. The organism is transmitted from one person to the other through the air, stuck to the mucous membrane or the membrane lining the nose. From it creeps through the bloodstream till it reaches the meninges.
Okay.
When it reaches the meninges, produces inflammatory response, inflammatory cascade in these membranes, and these membranes swells, and the swelling of these membranes is the cause of the most symptoms which occur for the patient with meningitis.
And that's my next question, actually, is about symptoms. And we have some images, inshallah, my dear brothers and sisters, that we're going to be showing you in just a moment relating to the symptoms of meningitis. What are some of the most common symptoms of meningitis?
The patient with meningitis first complain from mild influenza-like symptoms which can pass unnoticed, then followed after a few hours by the full-blown picture of meningitis, which is headache. The patient complains from headache.
Are we talking about like a very severe headache or
Yes.
just a regular headache?
No, there is a very, very severe headache.
Like you can't bear it. You can't bear it, right? You cannot deal with the headache. It's a very, very bad headache, right?
Yes, described by the patient as the worst headache of my life. I didn't have someone like it before. Associated with stiff neck, the patient cannot flex or move his neck without pain, nausea, vomiting, fever, because any infection may cause fever in the body for the patient. Also, the patient may deteriorate until he has convulsions and may lose concentration by time. So if any patient has these warning signs or warning symptoms, should also suspect it to have meningitis and should ask for medical care immediately.
As a neurosurgeon, how do you diagnose this disease?
Diagnosis is first we should clinically suspect the patient from these symptoms. When the patient is suspected to have meningitis, we should confirm our suspicion by
medical tests, blood work?
By tests like complete blood count, CBC. There is some changes which occur in the CBC from which we can suspect meningitis. CT, it is some sort of imaging to confirm, to surely diagnose meningitis. We should take a little amount of this fluid which pass around the brain through what we call lumbar puncture, which is drainage of some CSF through the back of the patient, and analyze this fluid and if there is certain changes in this fluid, like increased in the white blood cells, we can examine this fluid for bacteria or pathogen or microbes which cause the meningitis. Through these tests, we can confirm and surely diagnose that the patient has meningitis.
How do you treat it? Are we talking really about a disease that's easy to treat, or is it difficult, or is there really no cure for it?
Yes, it is easy to treat, but before we treat it, we should know how to prevent this problem. People or pilgrims in crowded places should sit in adequately ventilated areas, should avoid close contact to each other, should avoid towel or sharing, like toothbrushes, towels, and so on. Also, people especially who are at high risk for having infection should take care from close contact to each other, or close contact to non-patient who have meningitis. Then treatment include first drugs like antibiotics, antipyretics, the drugs which decrease the body temperature, corticosteroids. Cortisone has a great role to avoid complications from meningitis for the patient, and try to isolate the patient, not to infect surrounding people. IV fluids, we should give him IV fluids. All these procedures should be in adequately equipped place like hospital or medical center, which can deal with this medical problem.
Approximately how long does it take for this treatment process?
Treatment is very easy, especially if the meningitis is caused by virus, not bacteria. Virus in general has self-limiting is a self-limiting disease. Just supportive measures like IV fluids, antibiotics, and the disease will
wear itself out.
Yes.
Yeah.
But in general, most cases take from 3 to 5 days to completely recover and can do their daily work.
Jazakallah khairan. We talked about some of the infectious diseases that a person can face at Hajj. Now let's try to talk a little bit about some of the other problems that a person can face. As you said, heat stroke or heat exhaustion is really a big problem, especially at this time of the year. It is still very hot in the Mecca area. Yes. So what causes heat stroke when we're there? Is it just direct contact with the sun, or is it being there for an extended time?
The most common cause of heat stroke is prolonged sun exposure, especially in patient extremes of age. The body tries to control its temperature through one center, important area in the brain called the heat regulatory center. This area decreases body temperature when it rises by sweating, producing sweat. This sweat, when evaporates, it take off the excess heat from the body. Other method of losing temperature is vasodilation of the blood vessels, especially under the skin, to get rid from this temperature. So if the rate of heat production is much more than the
release of the heat.
Yes, the loss of temperature by the heat regulatory center, it will the body temperature will rises and will produce the symptoms which characterize heat exhaustion, heat stroke. These symptoms, the patient can suffer from headache. The body temperature is high. But before the patient reaches the stage of heat stroke, the body produce a lot of sweat to try to keep
try to keep up, try to
Yes.
cool off the body.
Try to cool off.
We have some pictures actually of the symptoms that we're going to be showing on the screen in just a moment, inshallah. There they are. If you can, tell us what they are briefly. You should be seeing them, brothers. If we can have them on our screens, there we go. Yeah, if you can just look anywhere around you and
Yes,
check them out.
this figure illustrates the most common symptoms which occur in heat stroke. Starting from the head, the patient suffer from headache, lack of concentration, rapid shallow breath. The patient can have difficulty in breathing. The body temperature is more than 38 degrees centigrade.
38 degrees.
Yes, and the pulse is full and bounding and rapid. The patient has rapid pulse. He feels his heart beats.
It's beating
strong.
very fast. Yeah.
Yes. Also, there may be cramps, especially in the muscles, which exposed to stress by exercise, like calf muscles, abdominal wall muscles. The patient may have dark urine. That means that he is very dehydrated and
he's losing water.
Yes.
Yeah. Excellent. Now, how does this happen all of a sudden, or does it take like minutes, or does it take hours? You know what I mean?
Yes.
Or does it just happen at one moment? Like, because what we see as regular people is we see a person standing there, the next moment he's down.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
But I'm guessing that it's kind of a longer process.
It is a longer process, and the patient is also all the time is trying to cool the body, its body down. When the weather is very hot and there is a lot of humidity, the body cannot get rid from its temperature till it reach critical level, which after that it cannot withstand excess heat. The patient immediately or rapidly feels severe headache, cramps, may fall down on the ground due to lack of consciousness, may have convulsions in severe cases. So there is some precautions which we should give it for all pilgrims, not to stand a lot of time under direct sun rays. He should stay in a little shade. He should drink a lot of waters. The patient also he should try to keep its body all the time wet to decrease the body temperature. He should use umbrellas during walking or the rituals. He should also patients who are at high risk for having heat stroke should also take care not to stand a lot of time and spend a lot of time in direct sun exposure. And if the patient starts to complain from these symptoms which mentioned before, he should rapidly ask for medical help. He should.
Thank you so much. Alhamdulillah, I think we gave some very good advice to our brothers and sisters who are at Hajj, but we only have 1 minute left in the program, and I don't want to leave out those of us who are not at Hajj this year without any advice. So my final question is relating to, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, many of our Muslim brothers and sisters around the world who are going to be fasting tomorrow, inshallah. Of course, those who are not at Hajj. Many of them, face and they suffer from severe headaches when they are fasting. Tell us how we can try to limit that or avoid it altogether.
People or pilgrims tomorrow should avoid strenuous exercise, avoid much walking, the direct sun exposure. Before fasting, they should drink a lot of water.
You mean those of us who are fasting tomorrow here, like not those at Hajj,
yes,
but those of us who are fasting here,
yeah,
drinking a lot of water. Okay.
yes, they should drink a lot of water, keep their body all the time dry and wet. To keep it wet.
So in suhoor, we should try our best to drink as much water as we can.
Yes, yes. They should avoid crowding, avoid direct heat exposure. Also, they should stay in well-ventilated places to avoid infection or
and as you said, it's not just about it's not just about the heat, it's also about the humidity.
Yes,
those are kind of like two killer factors
yes.
together.
Yes,
Great.
humidity makes the problems more great because it prevents sweat from evaporation and keeps the temperature inside the body. The body cannot get rid from excess temperature.
Speaking of great, I want to thank you so much for all the great advice that you gave us here this evening. Unfortunately, we've run out of time in this short segment, but we've definitely learned a lot from you, Dr. Ahmed. Thank you so much for being with us here tonight.
Thank you. Thank you.
My dear brothers and sisters, thank you for having been with us here this evening. Inshallah, we will be back with you tomorrow. Tomorrow is the big day for all our brothers and sisters who are going to be on the mountain of Arafat. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept from them. More than 2.5 million Muslims, more than 2.5 million Muslims from every single part of the globe are going to be standing in one place together, asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive them. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept from them, inshallah. And also tomorrow is a big day for all of us who are not going to be at Hajj, because it's a day of fasting, so that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will forgive our sins as well, a year in advance and a year in the past. And at the same time, it's a big day here at Huda TV because it is our biggest day of the year with live coverage. We'll be with you for more than 12 hours of live coverage tomorrow, inshallah, maybe even 15 hours, who knows, all the way from the early morning hours when our brothers and sisters start heading out to Arafat, and inshallah we will be going all the way till nighttime when they head out of Arafat and to Muzdalifah, inshallah. Until tomorrow morning, not tomorrow night, inshallah, we leave you in the care of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Have a good night. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.